All right, and welcome back to the Breadcrumbs Project. We are a Monday through Friday operation because brother needs some time off, and I've got a real job that I got to work on top of doing all this research and doing all this work. But we have taken quite a trip doing these lives, and it's a shame that people have missed it. But for me, it's been absolutely a thrill because I've really have had a chance to unlock everything that it is to be a modern human and how we got to where we are. And that's a tall, tall, tall tale to weave. And it's basically this right here, Latin America. That and ancient maps are what started to pull this thread. And this thread has led to understanding that the Latins were a worldwide phenomenon. You can see Latin buildings, Latin architecture throughout the world, and that includes Tartar and Tartaria or Tartaria. Um, but that is something that has come online very strongly on YouTube, and it's people that have noticed maps that are ancient old maps that have this region that is in Siberia called Tartaria, and it's not Russia, it's Tartaria. And you look at the maps, which are really, really, really good. All right, the maps are profoundly well done, and they have um, a degree of perfection in how they render it. Render mountain lines, coastlines perfectly to a modern map. And one of the things that we notice real quick is that Tartaria is not the size it should be. It seems that a good bit of Siberia was taken and then, man, covered over in mud. And the same thing with um, with uh, and sorry for drawing a blank here, but I'm thinking about some digs that were done in Cambodia. And when you get a foot down at the temples, a good solid, let me say that, a good solid foot or 2 foot down, they find um, rocks, stones, leveled, layered stones, like those at the base of the pyramid in Giza. So there is evidence all over the world, and you can see that it's mud flood type of rubble. So it has mud and broken up rock intermixed, or dirt and intermixed rock, and that's just how a mud flow goes. So it's not layered dirt; it's rubble, and then a base. And people look at it, see it, but they don't see what they're seeing until you flip that switch and start accepting and understanding that there has been a mud flood that affected Latin America, that affected um, Tartaria, and I don't think it affected Europe. I think Europe was largely spared the mud flood, Europe and Great Britain. And I think this is due uh, to the ice. Let me see if I have that map readily available. The ice pack that's on top of. Let me get this away from you guys. And I think this has it. So let this refresh for a minute. And yeah, so uh, I, and a lot of researchers and people are talking that the key date is 1775 of when the mud flood happened. It didn't happen that long ago. And for so much that I can think of, that makes absolute sense because a lot of us can take our ancestry back just so far in memory. So, as someone from Europe and Spain, um, I've got my ancestry in the Basque region, and it basically goes back to my great great grandfather and great great grandmother, but not further back than that. Not much further back than that. Not further back than that at all. So my mom knows the story of her grandfather, but we don't know anything about his father or his father, and we don't have any memorabilia, nothing. And understanding that the Basque region was in largely untouched in the sense of the Basque region has been very isolated. So I don't have any sign of mud flood there, but I also, again, we don't go back further than my great great grandfather. So there's very interesting things that have happened to humanity. But this is the ice sheet that I allude to that's over Canada. And the lakes are far different. And, again, these maps are very detailed and very specific. And we see that California is an island. We see many maps of ancestry that have California as an island. And then suddenly it's attached. And California is a Latin word, a combination of two Latin words, California. Cali, hot, forna, oven. And yes, that goes for California. It's a hot place. And Nova Mexico. And there's a whole sea in between the two. And then we have this giant ice pack. So something occurred that caused an Arctica inaccessa, so the unaccessible Arctic, because it's just a giant ice pack. Something caused this ice pack to melt suddenly and to do a giant land push down south. I can attest because I lived in Oakland, California, and I worked in San Francisco for a year and a half. And I would take a lot of walks in the mountains or the hills of Oakland. And I noticed that the hills are made of river rubble or mud rubble. So if you've been part of flooding, you understand how that works, especially a heavy flood where it ceases with the dirt. So yeah, so all of this was pushed suddenly south, and it filled in a lot of lakes. And I don't think it got to the South Americas, but it definitely affected Tartaria. And here you have it. Now, you could read it here as Tartaria, which translated is tartar sauce, which, Ria is river. So, I don't know. The translators are funny sometimes. But yeah, you got the Mugalia, so that's Genghis Khan and the Mongols. And then south, you have China. You have India, and you have China, and you have the all important Persia. the keeper of all the religions. So this, understanding how old these names are, and we don't have an actual date to this map. It says 1716 here, but we've already proven over and over again that these dates are impossible because these things did not exist in the time that this was released. So these are obviously copper plates that have been reused. And so the melting, the catastrophic melting of the ice caps affected, the ice cap affected both North America and Tartaria. And I can say North America because Septenero up here, Americas, America Septenero down here, America Septenero means North America. And a lot of these towns still exist. Some of them have um, but some of the names have been changed to obscure them. But yeah, a lot of the towns that are still here exist. Here's the other interesting thing that gives me a thought that it was a north-south event. In the South, we do not have snow or ice. We have a little landmass here that looks like a coffee stain, and over here as well, a little landmass, but there's no ice wall. So the ice traveled from north to south and is now down here as Antarctica. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Very interesting that this catastrophic event affected both North America and South America, and a lot of us are studying this, trying to make sense of it. And here comes somebody saying that it comes from 1775. One of the things I can tell you is that this area that is Tartaria and Persia and Russia and of course Europe, they all have similar, amazingly architecturally stunning buildings. China, India, Russia, I mean, famous for its onion-shaped domes, but they all have the same effect: is that they're acoustically amazing buildings. All the cathedrals, all the churches, all of them are acoustically stunning. And this ties in with giants and the elongated skulls or the long skulled people that went extinct here, both the giants and the elongated skull people, long skull people. So they both have gone extinct here in the Americas, and in the world. And if they're not extinct, then they're well hidden from us. So, but we've clearly had elongated skull people. We've clearly had giants in these buildings where we have these giant entryways, these beautiful stone cities. So all of that works together, and there's just a giant indication that something absolutely tragic and catastrophic happened. And also these islands here. So these guys no longer exist. And then we have the islands of Japan, which should be around here. So there are some interesting points in around here, but the one I can say that is super interesting is that we have Peking here, and then we have a representation of the Wall of China. And in 1716, I am sorry, but my brother, uh, Johann Baptiste Homan, who said that made this map, would have had no idea of the Wall of China, nor the name of Peking, nor of all these islands here that no longer exist, and much less of the inside of Asia, Tibet, Mongolia, Moguls, and all of these places that just no longer exist. I went looking for a lot of them, but nope, 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 nope. Just a lot of the ones like Peking, which then became Beijing. So yeah, China, India. There was definitely another, and we've had several iterations of beings on this planet, and so we are basically the most recent and the most, I think, ignorant so far. But I think we're coming along in our time, and if we have time, we may be able to do something with ourselves. But if you're into history, these maps are fascinating. You have to open up your mind and appreciate what they are. And this, by the way, is absolutely fascinating. That we have uh, the Nile River, and you have an island in the middle where it splits. This may be Elephantine Island, and then it meanders through, terminates into a giant lake, and this lake has a river coming out of it. So there was a lot of water engineering going along back in that day. Really is interesting. And now that we understand there was some catastrophic events, some war, something crazy, we can start to make sense of some of the destruction that we're seeing to buildings around the world. There must have been just a massive world war that we were made to forget. So in Europe, we have Hispania, and mind you, Hispania is not the Spanish name. España with the ñ, with the N with the line over it, that's our Spanish name. Hispania is our Latin name here in Spain, where I live currently. And we have Bilbao, which is a gorgeous stone city. Um, so it's named here. It's ancient, and we have Santiago, which is pretty stunning. Um, that it is Saint Iago, and is been changed over to Santiago. Yeah, so it retains its original name as well. Malaga, Alicante, those are all existing these days. So Barbaria, so these are the barbers. Yeah, a lot of the old history really does stick. What so we have here is Atlas, and we have Atlantic, Atlan, Atlanti, Atlanticus. So we still don't have an idea of where Atlantis is, and I don't see signs of the Eye of the Sahara here, but we do have Atlas. where the Eye of the Sahara currently sits, which is interesting. Interesting as it goes along. So yes, there is definitely a relationship between Latin America and Tartaria, and both of them existing, and the understanding of how all this happened. So when the Latins migrated from Spain over to the New World, that was a long time ago. Because we just have this little area right down here, Nova Hispania, and Nova Galicia is no longer named, but Vizcaya, North Vizcaya, is named here. So what happened was, again, just to recap as we finish off the show here, the 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 Latins broke off, the Western Latins, the ones that obviously had the talent and the knowledge to build and build beautifully, which now I think is absolutely Egyptian-based builders with the knowledge and wisdom that they gained in time. And you can see cathedrals, gorgeous cathedrals, the same type we have in Europe, especially Rome, and then with the beautiful buildings that we have throughout the Americas. It's just showing that the Egyptians, merging with the Latins, were able to create some amazing architecture. And so what we have here in the original point of finding the story is we have uh, Nova Galicia here, and I live in Galicia, Spain, and then down here is Nova Hispania in the pink. And as we have Nova Hispania et Nova Galicia, that is ancient Latin. So they came over here. All of this was yet to be discovered. This lake still exists. This one, unfortunately, up here does not. And all of this was unknown territory to these guys. And then over time, they built out. They built out to do this. From here, they did all of the Americas. Question is, how long did that take? And then that this makes sense as to 1775, something catastrophic happened that caused the ice pack melt. And then for the last couple of hundred years, we've been repopulating the Americas, North America especially, and there are people of the old world, old world, that know what happened, and those are the Freemasons, Frank Masson, Frank Mason, Free House, and they're based out of Europe. So I think something that Europe did to the Americas and to Tartaria, and probably included Africa, and it was, I think, a giant world war. I don't know, but something happened. All right, 25 minutes, 24 minutes long. Don't want to go over a half hour with you guys, but there is a relationship between Latin America and Tartaria, without a doubt. And we are on to something here in the Breadcrumbs Project. We never seem to get off stuff. We've always been a growing channel, intellectually speaking, and yeah, proud of the work that we do here. So hopefully someday it's going to get some recognition. Got to work hard for that. All right, everyone, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow, same time, 5 o'clock Eastern, and yeah.